Hey, everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for...
Yeah, coppers, you're never gonna take me alive. See? Unspun.
Talk policing. Oh, buddy, is this really happening? I mean, I think you should pinch me. Are we actually watching what we think we're watching?
It's the most surreal, bizarre thing. So we're talking about the Surrey Police Department, Brenda Locke, Premier, Ministry of people signing it's like,
okay, let's back up.
So bizarre.
Okay, so
it's all so bizarre.
Is it going to be a return to the RCMP, the Surrey RCMP, or is it going to be continuing forward with the Surrey Police Services? This is the question that we have been asking now for 3 years, maybe. And word is this coming week, perhaps by next week's Unspun on Thursday, we will have an answer one way or the other. And the signaling is getting stronger by the minute. The first thing that we should probably hit here is how David-Eby, along with other premiers across the country, are sounding the alarm to the federal government about how there are 632 graduates from Depot, which is the RCMP's training, right?
Yes.
And every year, 860 some odd RCMP members either quit or retire. So we're at a 200 or 300 officer deficit every year.
country. In a growing country.
Right. And just one more piece here, the policing contract between the federal government and the RCMP is up in the early 2030s. So while that sounds like a long way away, you don't just go, okay, the RCMP contract's not going to be renewed. Everybody find yourself cops, right? Like, so this is some signaling that we have a problem here, and maybe we just keep the honorary ride happening and you keep the traditional pieces of the RCMP alive, but you get policing more provincial or municipal, or combination of both. Because let's be honest, if there is a BC provincial police, there's still a Vancouver Police Department. There's still a Surrey Police Services, This is
it's up to the province.
But I lived in Ontario for a decade, and I'm telling you that's how it works in a major province when you're boots on the ground, because one provincial police services cannot get into the minutia of the corners of the province, as is proven by the policing struggles that we have in BC right now. Totally getting off topic. Fact of the matter is, it's going to go one way or the other, and we're supposed to find out this coming week. And in this time, the mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke, is literally causing her own shit show. It's a shit show.
Well, it's okay. There's multiple things going on here. First of all, and we've talked about this before, I've said it before, that the province should be looking at a provincial police force. If they're not happy with the RCMP, clearly they're not, as we learned this week, through communication through the national, through the other premiers, and sort of the premier himself saying, we've got a problem here. The data is bad. RCMP aren't keeping up. We need to take this seriously. The ball's in the federal government's court. So we're bouncing that up to the federal government. And then you got Brenda Locke saying, we don't want the Surrey PD because it's too expensive. The people just voted me in not to have this. So she's bumping it up, saying to the province, you can't do this to us. It's like this whack-a-mole situation where everybody's going, yeah, you do this, you do that. And so as a result, what's happening in Surrey is not a lot as far as policing goes, because it's chaos. And of course it's, but the thing is that you just touched on something that kind of, I'm going to guess that potentially the federal government's going to be like, sure, let's get rid of the RCMP. It'll save us a fortune. And we'll talk a bit about my op-ed later, but it's like, download. So now the federal government goes, okay, bye, your problem, not mine. You go find staff and train people. I've said this before, the VPD is the biggest line item. It's huge. It's a massive cost for the city of Vancouver. Surrey, which is almost a similar size and will be bigger than Vancouver in 10 years, as far as population, the cost is going to be the same, or if not more, for the taxpayers with the Surrey Police Force. Now, if that's fine for taxpayers, but I think Brenda Locke's going, whoa. So, but it's all getting lost in this show that you described. And
you can say shit now, because I already got us our E.
Yeah, shit.
So you can say
literally,
shit show.
Brenda Locke has now blocked. I've never seen this before. I get it if you block people, and you block people. I don't block anybody, but you do.
I block tons of people.
Yeah, you block tons.
I block tons of people because
but
they
you're
just
the
go away.
mayor. Yeah, you're the mayor.
If I was the
of
mayor, I
Surrey,
wouldn't.
blocking the police department that you're actually underwriting, or the union she blocked, I should say, because they were going after her. Come on. I mean, sorry,
She blocked
Mayor Locke,
she blocked the
that's
Surrey.
not cool.
No, she blocked Surrey Police Services.
The
not
services
just the
too.
union.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
it's just bad PR.
If I was a mayor of anywhere, which for the record, make note, I will never be the mayor of anything. But if I were the mayor of somewhere,
yeah,
I would not be the person doing my Twitter. I wouldn't. The person doing my Twitter would look at it and only give oxygen to the things that I want to talk about, period. And the people coming at me yelling, it's just every time I bring up this
so beer
subject,
guzzling only beer guzzling
exactly. I loved. Oh, we get into shotgunning, but I could never do it. Hurts my stomach. So I sit next to Linda Steele weekly, right? I sit next to Linda Steele weekly on our show. The number of people who have come for me and told me that I'm not allowed to have an opinion on policing in Surrey because I sit next to Linda and she's married to Norm Lipinski, who's the police chief in Surrey for Surrey Police Services. I have
all the more reason to have your opinion in
I have
my
a
mind.
chuckle every time. I've met Norm Lipinski once. I've known Linda Steele for 8 years. Linda and I are colleagues. This is like somebody telling me I'm biased because something your uncle did. I've never met your uncle. I don't know your uncle. I know you. I don't care. Well, there you go. Sorry. I didn't say your dad because I know your dad passed when you were a young man. So
no, I'm kidding. It's I have closer connections to Kevin Bacon. I have less degrees of separation to Kevin Bacon than I thought to Norm Lipinski.
You know what? And that's a funny joke for you. For those of you who've never seen Linda's husband, Norm, the chief of police for Surrey Police Services, he looks exactly like Kevin Bacon. In fact, he's handsomer than Kevin Bacon. I would never say that to Norm because I find Norm a little bit scary.
Don't say to Kevin either when you're
no, but Norm is like, he's been RCMP. He's been municipal police. He has been boots on the ground. He's worked his way up. Norm does not deserve to be attacked by a bunch of goofy trolls who decided to politicize what's happening in Surrey. You grew up in Surrey, in the area,
Langley,
right?
Yeah.
Langley, but I mean, close enough. I grew up in Tawasin, so close enough. We are, border town from Surrey. We spent a great deal of time hanging out as teenagers in that part of town. That city has grown by leaps and bounds, and it hasn't grown in terms of the policing. Everybody knows there's a big problem when it comes to criminal behavior in the city of Surrey, and the people there deserve policing, not politicization. I think it's a bruised, if not horrifyingly black eye on City Hall to have a mayor who is so defiant in not having that open, transparent conversation she keeps talking about, and just is like, sticking her flag in the ground and saying, I'm not budging. What happens with Brenda Locke, George? Unspin this for me. If Mike Farnworth and David-Eby in the coming week say, we're going with Surrey Police Services, it's not up to you anymore. Everybody is forecasting that that's what's happening. I don't know anything more than what I've listened to Keith Baldry, Mike Smith. I'm talking to Rob Shaw. I've got my people. Linda doesn't know anything. She's finding out more from me than she's finding out from, her sources because everyone's so tight-lipped. But what does Brenda Locke do when the hammer comes down and it's like, this is what's happening, make it happen? What does she do? What do you predict?
Well, it's awkward. That's for sure. I would say that resigning might be something she might need to consider, because she may have ironically lost the support of her community because she didn't win this battle. She's all in on this. Yeah. And it's unusual to be all in on something that you really only have so much control of. You work at the pleasure, as I've said many times, municipal governments operate at the pleasure. It's literally, that's the wording of the province. And so you are you're an appendage of the province. And so you don't really have, we have the municipal charter for every other city across the province, except for Vancouver, which has the Vancouver charter, which is unusual, but it's what it is. And so the charter is overseen by the province. And so including policing, they decide what you get in the end and approve whatever you get. And you're right. When off the top, you said all things are pointing towards the province saying, let's go with the Surrey Police Department. We can't see the RCMP getting their act together in time to add the number of police officers that are clearly, based on the data you presented there. I mean, we're off by a couple hundred plus per year, plus not even including new people that they need to, as markets and communities grow. So and by saying that publicly seems to be a statement.
Yeah.
Certainly to Brenda Locke, prepare yourself. And so she
Signaling.
needs to find, she put herself in this corner, for at such an early point in her term that it's hard to understand. And I get it. I mean, I get the numbers, and it's something that should have been properly overseen in the previous administration. They went full bore. It was a promise by the previous mayor, Doug McCallum, to do this. He fulfilled his two promises, SkyTrain and police force, and then lost the next election. But he also, the numbers weren't clear. And it's actually, I think it's 5 years since this started. This conversation was the day after Doug McCallum was elected. He started the process. So that's 5 years ago. And I was said then, it's going to cost Surrey way more than they were budgeting. I think they were budgeting like 120 million. It was ridiculous. I mean, we're talking ridiculous. 500-600 million. This is going to cost taxpayers. So,
and let's go back to the fact that people are saying that you and I don't get a say in this because we don't live in Surrey. Guess what? Those tax dollars, that remarkably large sum of money that the provincial government has promised to Surrey to move forward with the SPS, because that's what they said on paper made the most sense. And that was weeks and weeks and weeks ago that they said that. It is about all of us, not to mention the fact that if it were to be, surprisingly, we're going to revert to the RCMP in Surrey and we're going to staff it and it has to happen and blah, blah, blah. What does that mean for rural British Columbia? Because the crime rates around this province are soaring. Understaffed is what every jurisdiction across BC is saying. It's similar to the healthcare system. After what we've been through these last number of years, there are fewer and fewer people aspiring to go work in the areas that are really resoundingly attacked on a daily basis by a small slice of society. Like even, you can throw journalism into that. Like, do you want to be berated 24/7, 365? Anyways, we could talk about this all day, but I want to talk about, you mentioned your op-ed.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, your prediction is this coming week, they're going to say Surrey Police Services. Is that your prediction?
I don't know about the timing. I don't know if it's that quick, but I think something's got to come to a head soon. They can't live in this chaos, and they got to start working on their 2024 budget.
Yeah. So my sources tell me that it's this coming week and the announcement's in Victoria. So Tuesday or Wednesday, which
put money on
me.
SPD. I think you are too, right?
Yeah. SPS for sure. Yeah.
SPS,
only because of what David-Eby said yesterday. Yeah. What David-Eby said yesterday was like, he's signaling, because he doesn't say, he's a very methodical politician. He is strategically coming at this. And he's also, I think, by and large, a very much a man of his words. Like when he says, I'm not calling an election, people are like, he totally is. Well, he's like, listen, I'll never
believe a politician on that. But
I'm looking at him. I'm his constituent. I live in his neck of the woods. He might. He well might. And that's politics. But over the years of watching David-Eby be David-Eby, there are very little things he said out loud that he didn't mean. Very few. And
to that point, I think that's on sort of reverse, not talking about whether there's going to be an election, but him saying those numbers, that's total spin. That's PR. That's like, here's some data to lay the groundwork for what we're about to do. And that's spin. 100%. That's what we talk about here.
Well done. Thank you for articulating it more so than I could there, because that's where I was going with it. I just don't say it as well as you do, but you're very good with words, as proven in the Vancouver Sun, an op-ed piece that you have put forward. See my segue? That's my specialty. Nice. Thank you. Yes, I read it, George. I really like it. Give our listener, our viewer, the Cole's notes on.
It's long. It's got some data in it. So if you want to go check it out, I've tweeted it out. It's in the Vancouver Sun. The basic concept is enough is enough on the housing front. And I've been saying this since the day I was elected back in 2011, that this kind of downloading by the provincial and federal governments on housing, on healthcare, it's too much. And the city of Vancouver, under Vision Vancouver, and then the previous administration and this new administration seems to be embracing it as well, are accepting this. And
Yeah.
my argument is we cannot, I know we want housing for people who are have high needs, and we all need housing. My kids need housing. We all need housing. You know, it's housing a problem, but is it the responsibility of Vancouver or any city to deal with this kind of challenge along with other healthcare stuff? No,
all of it.
And somebody
No.
needs to stand up to the federal and provincial governments, and it should be probably Vancouver. It needs to say enough and start uploading. Enough of this downloading. This is not our responsibility. $600 million. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, let me quote you here because this is my favorite. This is my favorite. How you set this up is just brilliant. I'm quoting George's op-ed piece in the Vancouver Sun. You should find it. The government jargon for this is downloading. How cute. It sounds as victimless as queuing up for a Marvel movie or finally getting a hold of your favorite band's latest album. But what that euphemism really means is, quote, this is expensive and hard to do, so we're going to make the city's problem. End quote. Over the past several years, the province has downloaded a suite of social services to municipalities, among them affordable housing, addiction services, mental health support, healthcare, and outreach. That paragraph landed like boom. It downloaded because we've got these sort of passive terms for really big problems. And cities are not, they don't
have the staff, they don't have the money,
the know-how. We're not built. We should be doing more of what Brad West is doing and less of, I don't want my park board running Truth and Reconciliation. I don't. I want my park board to take care of the parks. I want my government to acknowledge that Truth and Reconciliation is important to this country. But that's a federal level that then you download money to create provincial awareness and whatnot. Like the downloading of the issue, that's what I love about your column. So keep going. The data you were saying.
Well, I mean, I think it's, and I think this week there's the city of Vancouver just yesterday was approving a process, the staff report related to multi-units in a certain size property. So basically rezoning pretty much the entire city to allow for higher density 6 units or more, potentially 6 units on a single family lot. Right now, you maybe get 3. They're even discussing maybe subdividing and selling part of your own single family property in that area. I've heard the feedback that I'm hearing already is saying, it's, and they kind of touch on this low income only, but for sale stuff. But I say, why not sell the laneway unit at a high level of money and then subsidize the basement suite to be cheaper? That's kind of what a lot of people are saying related to this report. So this is how cities deal with affordability. They change the zoning. They allow more building. We've talked about this before. Speed up the process. Be more efficient. Stop having all these rules. There's a report that came out this week about that there's a clear line between bureaucracy and approvals and all that stuff and the cost of housing in a city, and Vancouver being one of the worst as far as paperwork, and also the most expensive city in the country. So it's all these things coming together, and I think that stay in your lane, each level of government.
And you NIMBYs got to wrap your head around the fact you live in a city. If you want to live like you live in rural countryside because generational wealth saw you living on a 4-acre property with a single home on it in Shaughnessy, Kerrisdale, whatever, some of these pieces of property are ridiculous. And you drive around those neighborhoods at night, every sprinkler's on. You want to talk about conserving water? Do you want to talk about housing issues? Do you want to talk about, but there's so much. Right? And I talked to a young man whose grandparents live on a beautiful property, and his grandparents are amazing. They're lovely people. They've lived here forever. They worked hard for what they have. They're extremely wealthy people. They can barely maintain their single family home that has 3 gardens. Right? They could easily have 2 or 3 more full-sized homes on their property.
Yeah.
They
could.
It's
not, this policy is not saying you must do this. It's literally
and that's
just opening it up.
Oh my God, you just read my mind. You just read my mind. Because what ultimately he's like, well, my grandparents really don't like it. And they really didn't, And I said, you know what? They don't have to. But if the people right next door want to do that on their property, it shouldn't be a problem because it makes the community more vibrant.
That is exactly what they're talking about here.
Yes.
I don't know how many units in your building. Is there 5? 4?
In ours?
Yeah,
we actually have 8.
8.
8
I thought there were 2 or 3.
8. we're technically a duplex, but all we have is a beam that runs between our two structures.
Right.
And there are 4 of those on what used to be one single family home. All of us have yards.
Hey,
All of us
you
have
cannot
privacy.
tell.
I
You
don't even
cannot
know
tell.
the people who live next door, two over. I've never met
Yeah.
them. We live on the same piece of property.
And this is
all we do is respect.
yeah, this is policy that was
non-conforming-
brought in the 70s.
Yeah, this was
40 years
80s.
ago.
This was 80s. Non-conforming strata. George, we don't pay strata fees. We don't have, I can paint my house
But you're
pink
not
and purple
a-
polka dots.
And
No.
you're not a what is it called? What's it called? The other thing where you have to have the 2 walls.
No
my
shared
God.
walls. Yeah, no
Yeah.
shared walls.
No shared walls. Okay.
No shared walls.
Interesting.
We're
So it's-
independent, freestanding, non-conforming strata units at about between 1,000 and 1,600 square feet each home. So they're built for families. They're near, they got all the things you need without
People
it
are
being
saying
like
1,000 square feet for a family. I live in just over 1,000 square feet, raised 3 kids there, just fine. Thank you
just
very much.
fine. Absolutely. But my kitchen and living room isn't 700 square feet. Like that's the thing when people are like, well,
Your
that's
husband,
not enough room.
your boy. Yeah, I'm sure somebody else would love that. You love cooking too.
You would. But you
that's
know what?
a
I
man's
wouldn't
dream
move.
too. Everything else can be
wouldn't-
small.
Yeah.
Kitchen's got to be big, but yeah.
Kitchen's got to be good.
So you're living in a perfect example. I live in a perfect example. And so this is the challenge that cities have. And the NIMBY thing, of course, it's it's so funny because they're almost all these single family home, in my time in council, they were either, it's funny. They're either the owners of these single family homes quite often who come and complain, and they're, you're a multimillionaire now because you bought your place for $80,000, whatever. And now you have a $2 million
$10 million home
It's
or
hard
whatever,
for me
yeah.
to feel sorry for you, but
Yeah.
it's more about the process. But anyways, I
would
think
just
on
like
the
people to
waterfront
think-
though,
One more second. I
throw
would
on
like
that
people to think if you're NIMBYing the hell out of it, because you're holding on to what it once was, because it once was a vibrant community.
Yeah.
It once was full of people and happy and community centers and churches or whatever, like all of the things, the little grocery
Mhm.
stores and all the things. It's not like that anymore because people can't afford to live here. And it's hollowed out and it's emptied out. And when you add people to your hollowed out rich neighborhood, you're going to have laughter again. Stop
Mhm.
fearing the other and start welcoming people who need places to live into your neighborhood by way of densifying gently, right? It's the
Mhm.
fear that your next door neighbor, if they are allowed to zone differently, they're going to put in a 40-story building next to your house. That won't happen. That won't happen. We need densification in the city or the city will die. The city's
Yeah.
going to die.
Dunbar has less people living in it now than it did before 10 years ago or something. It's
scary.
crazy.
It's
crazy.
scary. And it's
You
so
touch
beautiful.
on water. I just want to touch
Yeah,
on
go ahead. Water.
because we're running out of time already. We've already, man, I don't know where we're at
Jesus.
with you. You keep track of time, but
Yeah.
this subject drives me crazy because I hate the fact that we always got these water restrictions and we live in a rainforest. And I'm always arguing, and we have this Metro Vancouver who controls our water in this region. And this, GVRD, the great, the water in this
Greater
region.
Vancouver
I'm
Regional
sorry,
District.
but can we not put a plan together, people, for digging a bigger hole for, I don't know what it is that we have to do in order to provide enough water because it falls from the sky. Yes, okay, climate change, all that, of course, but we still get a lot of rain here. I don't think, I think we can all agree on that, can't we? It's pretty much still a rainforest, and even if it's not, we should be making sure that if we do the math on it, that we're building infrastructure to protect our water so that we don't have to sit there every year and go, okay, it's time to stop. Well, why? How is it possible that we know what the population growth is? We know the consumption of water. We know what we need. Why are we not building the proper infrastructure to handle that? Because water literally falls from the sky for free here. We're not like California. It's like right above us. And it's a commodity that we potentially can make a lot of money off of in the future. The whole province, really, water is going to be a huge commodity in this province, especially as you go into the places where there's more rain. Live up in Prince Rupert. Pretty sure they don't have a lot of climate change happening in Prince Rupert. It's pretty rainy. And we need to start thinking about that and thinking about how that infrastructure works. And so that's just my rant on that.
I love that
Besides,
rant, George. I'm going to add to it because I think if we can store oil and gas en masse all along the coast and in pipelines everywhere. Why can't we do the same with fresh water? As you said, capturing it is not that difficult. I think it's a multi-billion-dollar green idea. Maybe redirect some of the people who work in fossil fuels and manage liquids that are the fossil fuel brand and turn them into managers of water. Because I believe you're right. It's going to be a massive commodity, maybe not in our lifetimes, but certainly in those to come. It is going to be that. And it's like the people with enough money are wasting tons of water and the people with not enough are thirsty as hell. So we need to find a better way. And we have the best water in the world, by the way.
Yes, we do.
As somebody who's lived in the US and in Eastern Canada.
Absolutely.
People don't drink out of the tap everywhere, guys.
Not very chlorinated, and you know, it's all good. And you know, and speaking of infrastructure, I just want to, we're running out of time. I think I don't even know where we're at, but the P&E. So let's talk.
We got 7 minutes.
Oh, we do.
Left.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about the P&E and this thing.
People are freaking out. Okay, so
freaking out in a negative way. I find, like, what?
Right. It's crazy. This beautiful amphitheater. We need another place that's not downtown Rogers Arena, or what do we call it now? I've lost track of.
Well, we had an amphitheater downtown during Expo. Remember?
We did. It was so great.
No, and they tore down
an
empty lot there. Could have kept it.
It could have kept it. The Molson stage, right? Wasn't it the Molson amphitheater? So it's that hard roof but open air. So that, I don't know if you've seen the drawings, not you, George, of course you have, but those listening or watching, you see the drawings. It's a really cool design. So this sort of bowl of an amphitheater that's going to be on the grounds of the P&E, because the P&E is getting a big upgrade. The budget was, I think, $60 million. And now it's ballooned up by 60%, which I question. I think, okay, you know, that seems, yeah, okay. So now it's 102 or 105, whatever. Vancouver City Council approved this loan for the P&E to complete this. Obviously, it's going to happen. They're going to complete it. And I thought that the councillor Sarah Kirby-Young, who is the P&E's, that's her file. Yeah.
Board liaison,
the way she put it, she's like, for the taxpayer that's freaking out about this, it's not tax dollars, no tax money. Our tax dollars are not paying for this amphitheater. You know, we can calm down a little. I don't think she said it, but that's how I heard it. It's like, calm down, Joe.
Yes.
The federal monies coming to the P&E, which it's long overdue to get an injection of federal monies, because other exhibitions across the country, like the Stampede and the C&E, have received federal dollars where the P&E has not. It's really important. So I'm with you. And she said that the money will be paid back to the city with revenue from this new amphitheater. So it's kind of like when we paid for the highway at the Coquihalla, right? It's like the toll booth.
Public, because I think a lot of people don't understand the P&E is a corporation. It's a city-owned corporation. Used to be provincially owned. The province said, you take it, about 20 years ago almost now. City took it over. They got this land. There was a lot of battle about this should be a park board property, but no. Thank goodness the city stayed focused on the fact that the P&E as an organization has always been revenue neutral or cost neutral for the city, that it's self-sustaining. And now, barring they've lost a few bucks in the last several years because of COVID, and you know, there are some challenges for sure. But what the P&E offers is this ability to build stuff and borrow the money like they're doing from the city. And it's great that the city is doing this, because and they say it'll take 23 years. That's the deal. I think it's 23 years. P&E is saying we'll probably pay it off in 11. So that's amazing. But more importantly to me, we talked about housing and how that's a big chunk of the budget. To me, we need more things like this in our city to deal with all the people who live here. We need more stuff. We need more community centers. We need more pools, indoor, outdoor pools. We need our parks upgraded. We need infrastructure that, yes, costs money, but we're so focused. All of our money now goes to housing that we're not getting anything like this. So in this situation, the fact there's negative stuff about this, and it's actually costing the taxpayers $0 at this point, as far as local taxpayers, that it's self-funded. Meanwhile, we have to build a pool. There's a plan to rebuild a pool at in the West End, to rebuild that pool. That's going to be $80 to $100 million. That's not going to be something that we get revenue back immediately or a loan. It's going to be a cost to taxpayers. But it's also, but I don't hear anybody complaining about that. Why can't we just sort of, this is a great model, but still, we still need to build more stuff in the city for the people who live here. Like, if you're going to add, when the city's looking at adding 6 units to a single family unit site, those 6 people who families or whatever, they need stuff.
There's-
So they
there
don't
are
have to drive
25
to
people
Burnaby
living on
or
this.
Poco to
yeah.
enjoy the pools that they're building, and that we're not. I mean,
100%.
it's crazy. I go to Burnaby and their pool's 10 times better than anything we have in Vancouver. Crazy. Like, what are we
It is.
doing? We've lost focus of our job, which goes back to everything we were talking about earlier.
Everything we talked about earlier. Hey, speaking of jobs, port strike, tentative agreement.
Yeah.
That was breaking news today. By the time you're listening to this, there's probably more information on it, but it looks like avoiding further mediation, arbitration, or perhaps back to work legislation. So there's that. And then the Bank of Canada raised rates this week. So George, people feeling it in the wallet.
It's got inflation. It's maybe not as bad as some countries, but certainly in there. We've got this port. I'm sure they got a lot of money. It's going to be cost taxpayers. It's going to cost all this stuff, inflation.
Yeah.
So, and we're, looking at the data in America is looking like they're heading to a recession in 2024. It's like, as a small business owner, this is not a good time to be in business. It's like, just when you're out there pounding the pavement for business and you're talking to fellow business people quite often, like I do, it's scary out there. Yeah, it's scary out there. People are like worried, and they're looking at their lines of credits that have gone from a 2% interest rate to a 9 or 12% in the last year. It's a real challenge, and the only solution is to just grin and bear it for the next couple of years, because we're not getting out of this until 2025 or 6.
Right. But if you're in it and you're feeling buried in debt, talk to your bank. Don't hide from the bank bills. Talk to your bank. Look at possibility of pausing your mortgage and making it longer, or debt consolidation if debt's a problem. Don't just start racking up the line of credit and credit card further and going further in debt. Like, that's one of the things. Like, there's a lot to be done if you actively pursue being clear with where you're at financially. So that's just, I'm going to leave with that note, because I know some people who are like full ostrich, just boom, head in the sand. And it's like, that's not going to be helpful at the other end of this. So there is help to be had. And it starts with talking to your bank, because all of those creditors want their money back. And you going bankrupt, and I'm not talking to you, George, but people going bankrupt don't help. And if everybody goes down en masse, that's when you see crashes. So if we can continue to be different from our American brothers and sisters, because we are economically different from them, when we hit these types of situations, we saw that back in 2008. So we just need to be mindful, and that, there's always an answer. There's always an answer. So we're always free. Every Thursday, Unspun Podcast hits, unspunpodcast.com. You can follow George at George_Affleck, George_Affleck. I'm at Jody Vance. We're also on Threads, which I'm enjoying Threads. Go at Jody Vance, at George Affleck, no underscore. It's really weird. I don't know you there, George. I don't know. I don't even know. Any closing words from you, my friend?
Let's get out of here and then say, everybody enjoy the sun. It's going to be beautiful. It's beautiful out there. It's beautiful. See you later.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.